Asian Pacific Islander community, it's not just meant for ATI. For the episode about the Jewish community, it's not just meant for Jewish. For the episode about Black women, it's not just for Black women. It's for everyone to watch and go, feel. And just because someone has a problem and I don't, doesn't mean that it's not my problem type of thing. And so when you bring up the commonality of food, it's really a microcosm for a much, much bigger thing. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, and you're a fly on the wall. You're a fly on the wall. But I get to see what happens when Mary J. Blige gets his hands together. And
That's right.
The respect I have for that activity, I think I'll learn more past that fly on the wall idea. If even if I were there, I'm not sure they would say the
Well, I mean, and talking about that, so, years ago, I think, I participated in some of the overbooked clubs, right? Not because I was a patron, but because I'm also mixed. And we did a thing around, the blue-eyed girl. And, what was really important for me with my, my black sister was to say, it's not just African American, right? It's all of us who was not the blonde hair, blue-eyed girl, right? It's all anything other than that big cheerleader. We all work. I mean, I'm very curvy as being Italian, very curvy. I could never bring clothes to my friends because I was the biggest. I'm the tallest and I'm the biggest. And so I couldn't go and they go, oh, you borrow my clothes. I'm like, it's going to be like that, right? I just so those conversations need to be had because in our development, one of my favorite things to do in a roundtable is to ask them with my sister, right? I love it, is to say, how did you learn to be female? Because I didn't have a mother, right? So I had to rely on other people that I was looking at me to become a girl. Plus, I have 11 brothers. There was no female energy anywhere around me. So when people go, "Oh, you're tough as nails," I'm like, "Well, my childhood, I was in a actual bed. I had to in order to get there." And those conversations, first of all, Joe, how do you get people to allow you to do that? Like I'm surprised that every single executive in the world didn't go, "Oh, son, let me tell you, this is not going to work." That had to have happened.
Yeah. So another great question. So it's not every network, every channel that's going to do a show like this. Truthfully, right? Because a lot of shows out there are very toxic. I don't like to work on toxic shows. I like to work on shows that are meaningful and inspirational. And that's a big reason why I did, NBC's The Biggest Loser for 10 years. But basically, given the state of the world, how chaotic the world is right now, thank goodness that, LeBron James' company, Spring Hill, who I work for, as well as YouTube Originals, which is always fighting for injustice and standing up for human rights, racial rights, all of it. Luckily, they collaborated, and then that's how Rescue for Change was born. So when you take people that want to do good in the world, that's when we were able to do a show that is actually meaningful and impactful. So that's how it happened. Yeah, but you're right. It's not every channel that will do something like this.
And so again, my forte has always been the lane that I'm in about student behavior. People go, oh no, 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 none of that, because we want people to stay comfortable, right? So unspiritual, right? I've been told no all the time, even though people see me on camera a ton, with Steve and Oprah and Fox News, all that stuff. You don't understand that in my ear is a producer that is screaming to say, back down, Amelia, back down, right? Get in your lane, be quiet, be smaller. Like I got like this app set, there's my political correctness, because I was going at one of the big high-powered at Fox News. They were asking me about wealth, and I said tax. And in my ear, they're like, we influence the stock market. I'm like, you asked me a question, I'm getting it with a right? Because the real growth, the brilliance is in conversation, but the conversations are usually how, right? You really can't get into it. Like the one, like, and again, this is where I'm so ignorant, right? I thought like the highest level is Asian, right? I was like, because it's the generality is the smart, you're safe, you've got great family, and everybody's so friendly and supportive. Like I kept saying, God, if I was born Asian in my life, then so different, right? And then I walked, and I was like, oh, I didn't know any of this. I was like, I would be smarter if I was Asian. I just would be naturally smarter in the DNA. And I I felt so ignorant after watching your show.
Oh.
I mean, I
and,
felt
by,
so
and by the way,
ignorant.
I'm Asian, and I was learning more about my own community, working on my own stuff. So you're not alone there. And what you're talking about is the model minority, right? Where it's like
Yeah,
Asians are successful, Asians are the smartest, this and that, and you look at this,
exactly. Asian represents sex, right?
right?
Like you see an Asian, I'm like,
Right.
right? Because you've been conditioned, like the stigmatism, I guess if that's the right word, you've been conditioned about that, right? And so,
Right. Syntheticized too,
oh
especially for
my
women.
gosh, right? And so I was like, well, if I was Asian, I'd be sexier, I'd be smarter, I'd have more resources. And then I watched that and I was like, I am the stupidest woman in the world.
Now, I have to say that did you notice too that on amplifying practice, the younger guest complements the older guest's ability to have a conversation? And I was like,
I
oh,
cried.
oh.
I cried. I cried because I'm an old person. And so I didn't realize what an impact we're having on the younger conversation. I literally, Randy, I lost my shit right then. I cried. I was like, this is the most important show that has ever happened in my life.
I was horrified, and so glad that the support. I was so glad that the support.
Where
So
can we see Amplify Black women?
you a new product. I created a brand new product for Recipes to Change. So it's called Recipes to Change the Home Game. Amelia, work with me on this because you know we will do this.
Yes,
You do
yes.
the home game because at the beginning they have a scroll. And you take the scroll and you answer a specific question on that scroll. For one thing, brilliant icebreaker. Sadly, everyone can do it without the scroll. We can kind of write on the paper and do it. You do the question, but the question that I went nuts over, like, tell me that you're black without saying that you're black. Tell me that you're Jewish
Oh my
without
God,
saying that
yes.
you're Jewish. And let me tell you, I just finished my first fiction novel, and I refused to say that this character in my book is black. I refused to say that her husband is black. I was like, nope, not going to do it. I'm not going to label them. I didn't label it as white. And so I just dealt with it. I saw that question. Oh, I'm going to have a recipe to change skin first.
I'm perfect. So Joel, where did that question come from? Because that is gold. I mean, it's comfort. I mean, it's right. It how? How did that happen?
Yeah. So for the show, as someone that brings on the flu, I really, really want this to be so personal for the flu. For the Stop Asian Hate episodes, over 80% of our crew members were from the Asian Pacific Islanders. For the Ending Anti-Semitism, we were bringing on producers, other crew members who were Jewish, that were really passionate about standing up against anti-Semitism. And of course, the Amplifying for Black Women, we had producers for Black women, culinary producers, talent producers, creative producers, you name it. And the nice thing about this show is that it's a learning experience for every episode that we continue to do. For the Amplifying Black Women episode, it's not up to me to say, oh, here's what we should have, and that's why it's really left up to the producers. And as an executive producer, I'm really in charge of like the overall look and being a part of casting and whatnot, but it's really personal to the producers that I bring on. So that's how
I love that. And again, we're getting questions in the back channel about where to find it, how to get it. What's the easiest way to find it on YouTube?
Yeah, luckily it's a YouTube original show, so if you go to YouTube and type Recipe for Change, you're gonna see the episode about South Asian hate, ending anti-Semitism, and then our most recent one is about amplifying Black women, which I believe is almost at 3 million. It was just released like 2 something weeks ago. So yeah, YouTube original, or go to YouTube Recipe for Change, and then tomorrow is the Emmys where we're nominated. So wish me luck.
How did that? What's the who and how did you feel?
Well, I was told it was text message, which is, I guess, how how the biggest news is delivered these days. And it felt really good. It felt so good because we were in a show that isn't meant to be, you know, this toxic, loud, and like let's captivate people with like really loud personalities and drama. Then you're like, are people gonna like this show? And for us to get an Emmy nomination a year after that first episode was released, really felt so good, and it was just total validation that what we're doing is is needed out there in the world. So it really felt great. And again, it's a team effort. It's not even about me. It's about the amazing team of hardworking crew members behind the show.
So how do you deal with that? Since you're such a high level creative and visionary, there's a lot of pressure. What do you do with the feeling of what if nobody does like this? Like, how do you? I mean, I'm everything that I do, I'm worrying about. Am I serving my best ability? Randy and I talk about this all the time. We're so committed to really serving the conversation and the experience. You're doing shows, right? What do you do with that? I mean, in the middle of the night, you get that state that goes, what if it's not?
Absolutely. And what I like to tell myself is that I don't let one thing define me. Not my work, not my workout, not my mental health program. Because what happens, and I used to do this, when I used to let one thing define me, when that thing failed, I would tell myself, "Oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done it. Like that was my life. That's my life." But when I have a plethora of other things that I'm doing in my life, I go, "Oh no, there's all these other things that I'm also doing. Let me get back to that one thing that quote unquote failed, and redefine what failure actually means." And so now that's the second part of it, that I also redefine what failure is. I no longer see it as a negative outcome. I see it as a positive beginning. One of the best lessons I've learned in television were from shows that failed. It wasn't from, you know, the millions of views and blah 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 blah. Those hit shows. It was from those shows that literally nobody. And then I went, okay, let me spend time with all the other things that are actually going good in my life, and reflect back on that one show that failed, and go, what can I do better this time? Right? One of my favorite quotes in life is from Nelson Mandela, who said, "I don't lose, I either win or I learn." That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I think that as a behaviorist, when I'm sitting with people in session, that is what's holding people stuck in today, for the fear of, what if you don't like me? What if you don't like my work? What if you don't respect me? What if I don't belong? What if? And so it's more comfortable to stay in today, and so instead of growing into tomorrow. And you know, with every one of your successes, I'm making the assumption the pressure gets even more to up it. I was very, very blessed to work with Michael Jackson. And in our session, he kept saying, I want a top thriller. And thriller is the benchmark for so many things in entertainment. And he made the thriller when the reality is it needed to be its own success and its own lane, right? And I see that behaviorally happen all the time, right? Wanting to reach some other level or some other thing, and because you fear you can't, you do nothing. And so I love what you're saying about not losing yourself in just one definition to keep it broad. But what happens when you're the one who wonder if people bring you back to just that one thing? I know all about that. I did big super for 10 years, and I was like the weight loss producer. And at a certain point, I was like, I don't know what other workouts I can like think of or like food scene. And at a certain point, you have to get uncomfortable and lean into it and go, what else is there out there? One of my favorite quotes from Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, said, why are we cramming ourselves into a puny box of identity when we can be living in infinitude? And again, I could easily have been, I'm Joel Relampagos, the weight loss executive producer, and this is who I am for the rest of my life. And then I go, wait, no, why am I limiting myself with that label, with that definition? And so when you find yourself stagnant and you're not liking that feeling of I'm doing the same thing over and over and over and then being, you know, labeled as this one thing, start to ask yourself, what's another passion that you have in your life? And how can I actually do that? I never, ever, ever, ever thought I would get into mental health, but there are skills that I'm using as an executive producer and applying that into mental health. If you look at the Change Your Algorithm website, it looks like it's a Netflix show. And that's because I know how to go, oh, people like, this type of aesthetic. And then, there's something appealing about like, neon colors and whatnot, and everyone's kind of cute on the poster. So, I'm using my skills in television and applying that to mental health. And so that's really the beautiful thing is that you can pivot and it's totally okay to pivot because life's too short to not explore.
I'm going to give another perspective, and I think other people in the room. Okay, I am the elder statesman in the room. I am, as we know, 60 this year. And Amilya, you did this. I don't worry about that anymore. I don't worry about upping myself. I worry about just being true to myself, serving others, doing the best I can, and the quality. I really do. Now, Amelia, I'm as type A as the day is long, but I've allowed myself to become peaceful with that. And I think that age has to do that. But Amelia also challenged me, what is your word for the year? So by me having to choose my word for the year, that gave me perspective. My word was value. Does this activity bring value to me? Does it bring value to the people I want to serve? Does it bring value to the people that I'm interviewing? Is this bringing value to Joel? It is. So I'm good. Even if my dog jumps up on my lap and knocks me over backwards, I don't care because it'll make good TV and it's bringing value. And Amelia, I have to say, when we first met, I wasn't like this. I wasn't like this.
But
So
there's,
I just
there's
want to speak.
nothing feels better. Nothing in the world feels better than growing together with the people that you've chosen. That thing that happens when you grow with somebody imprints forever, forever. That's why when I'm working with coaches, the ability to teach and exchange your knowledge to somebody else is a feeling that I can't even describe, right? Because it validates your legacy. And we're just not taught those things. And Joel, I'm going to say, we just dropped our new book, Designing Genius. And I'm definitely going to share because every part of the book is a behavior modification or it's a reflection in the mirror. So you actually get to see yourself, right? And so when I sent it out originally, people were like, Amelia, people are going to really love this, really hate it. And I was like, Joel does it. Joel does it.
I mean, seriously, I have the same response with my fiction book, though. Amelia, yeah. I'm fine. If you like it, great, then I'm happy. If you hate my book, I don't care. I mean, I don't want you to waste your time, but I'm good with that. Yeah. I can only be the best person I can be. It is 11:31. Have to do a quick room reset. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to The Genius Hour with Amilya Antonetti and Randall Kenneth Jones talking to Joel Relampagos on Breakfast with Champions on Clubhouse, so you can listen to us on Clubhouse, or we are streaming live to the entire world right now. And I did that really fast. That's good for me. And back to you, Amelia.
Well, let's take some questions. We've got some great people on stage. I hunted down Renee. She's been in entertainment ever. She's one of my favorite stars. I don't know if she's still here, but hello, Miss Renee. I know you want to lean into this conversation, and I welcome you into it.
Hi, beautiful. Hello, room. Happy Friday, everybody. Woo-hoo.
And that hi
I,
beautiful was for me, right, Renee? The hi beautiful
uh,
was for me.
Randall, you and you alone, my dear.
I thank you. Yeah, you're obviously watching the stream, so I'm good with that. Please continue.
I love this room so much. I love this conversation. And Joel, it is so wonderful to be. Look, I'm to your right. We're buddies right now. The blue and orange complement
I
each other well.
see. What's up, Renee?
Hi,
And Renee is
Joel.
a very well-known actress. She's everything. And so she's very, very well-known. But she has also perfected her craft in communication. And so I pinged her and said, "You've got to come into this room."
Yeah, and once you pinged me, I shared this on my page to get more people in here. Joel, I so love what you stand for, and I feel like we have so many similarities in the entertainment field and wanting to wanting to make a real positive difference. And I like to say I want to be a pioneer for the communication movement where I help people to understand that communication is a priority in our lives and everything starts with communication. And when we learn to make this a priority, we become limitless. And it reminds me of what you're doing, right? You're sharing these beautiful conversations, this communication to change the landscape of the way people look at the world and the way people look at these issues that are often like, ooh, we can't talk about this. And I just think that is so admirable. And, in looking at excuse me, just your background and all that you have to draw upon, you're choosing to step into this communication. Like there are so many avenues you could take, right? But you're choosing to step into what's hard. And I think that that is so incredible and something that we can all learn. And you said something before that blew my mind. Hold on, I wrote it in the chat. I don't let one thing define me. What? Joel, that is like just a golden nugget right there, and I think we all fall into that. I know I am the what do they call it? It's a certain kind of thinking where catastrophize, right? I catastrophize. I could do 25 things amazing, but then if one thing goes awry, it's like oh, this made me realize I'm defining my life through one thing, and it's so important to not do that and look at the whole picture. And I want to say one more thing, and then I will move on. Um, just yesterday, I truly believe in divine timing, and just yesterday, I wrote because I believe that the most important communication we have is that first communication with ourselves. And yesterday, I sat down with myself and I allowed myself to be introspective and write about what I want. And Amelia always encourages us to do this in the Genius Key family and in the G100 to really sit and spend more time in the thinking than in the action. And I said, Renee, you're going to freaking spend this day and you're going to think. And what I wrote is, I'm not supposed to do it like everybody else. I'm not supposed to do it the way that this one says I should do it, or I have to do it, or to be successful, it needs to be this way. I am me. And like you, Joel, I have this interesting, amazing background as a performer. That's my heart and soul, singing, dancing, acting on screen, on Broadway. But now I'm in this world of being a coach and helping people to communicate with confidence. And I'm figuring out the way to do it that works for me. That may not be along with the rest of the people, quote unquote. But we all really need to take that time to figure out how things work for us. And I love that that's what you're doing. I love change your algorithm. And I'm just excited to stay connected, Joel. Thank you for what you bring to the world.
That's a lot of love. That's a love. A whole lot of
I
love.
love you, Renee.
Love,
Thank
love, love.
you so much. Yeah, that's a lot of love, and you know what? I'll take it. And you're absolutely right. And whether you are in entertainment or not, I challenge everyone here to ask yourself what is something that we all can be doing, in the lane in our lives, whatever lane we're in, that can make a change, not just for us, but also for other people. Because, like I was talking about, the world is way too chaotic to just sit back and do nothing type of thing, and at the same time, also knowing that we aren't just defined by one thing, but often at times we see ourselves as that. right? And that can be really harmful in a sense that like we're limiting ourselves. Y'all, we're human beings. We're unsupervised adults. We can literally do anything that we want to right now. But because of our ego, our fear of judgment and societal expectations, traumas from parents, we're limiting ourselves. I want everyone to really break free from that. Amelia would know as a behaviorist and go, what can I do? With limitless potential. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because if we all had that mentality, just us in this room, a huge shift will happen.
Which is crazy. And I was talking about this morning at our 9 o'clock hour. We have limitless opportunity in the world right now, and yet we hold ourselves captive in the limitations of our mind. We're surrounded by abundance, but we choose, right, to be handcuffed and confined. And that hence is really the problem. I see my sister Sally is here. Hello, beautiful. Welcome. Welcome.
Hi, my love. Thank you so much. Of course, I'm super enjoying this conversation. Hi, Joel. Joel and I think, did a couple rooms when Joel was really active on Clubhouse, and then he was gone, which I'm sure he's so busy. Hi, Joel. We are fellow advocates.
He said, good to hear your voice.
Joel, and we're fellow mental health advocates, of course, and I love that you just said that we're unsupervised adults. Woo! I just love that you said that. I'm
I think
currently.
That's a teaser. I think we need.
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is. And Joel, you and I share the same heart when it comes to developing television shows and trying to put good stuff out there and family friendly and just things that there's so much junk already on some of these streaming platforms, and the fact that you're out there making a difference and wanting to do more things that are going to actually affect people, impact people positively, I think is lovely. I'm in the middle of right now developing 6 new reality shows that are all in that same exact lane. And I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think the current mandates are for streamers and networks? Like, what is everybody looking for right now? I'm sure that you're right there and that what's happening.
Yeah, every network and streaming platform is different, so each one has a different mandate. But I guarantee you that all of them have the typical, right, which is game show, dating, adventure, and truthfully, as easy as it can be for someone like me to come up with those types of shows, my challenge as someone who wants to work on social justice is go, what can I do with these current shows that I have and make them entertaining and make them entertaining? Because sometimes people don't know what they're actually looking for until they're actually pitched that. So don't let a mandate limit you, to go, oh, they're not looking for this or they're not looking for that, because they might actually be surprised depending on the idea. When Recipe for Change started, there was no there was no initial thought about like, oh, food should be involved and it's about dinners. It was about continuing to develop what the idea was going to be, right? Stop Asian hate. And then we go, all right, let's do 3 dinners, and then let's involve all these other chefs, and then let's bring in allies. So it's that development process, which is really beautiful. And once again, you never know. You really never know until you pitch it.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what's so hard. As a behaviorist, the networks always reach out to me because they want to put me in relationships. They always want to put me in a dating show, right? And I keep saying my value is in the healing. The value is to put me in existing relationships, not dating, existing relationships, to show people how they can up it to the next level, more like the nanny 911. But that's not what the networks want. They want me to go and just do a dating show. And I'm like, that doesn't showcase my skills as a behavior. It doesn't show you all. We have 1,008 behavior modification tools that work immediately. But see, the networks don't want it to work immediately, right? They want to just do more the entertainment of just, Millionaire Max, right? Like more Patty. And I'm like, but that's not what I am. I'm not a dating coach. I'm not a matchmaker. I'm a behaviorist. I can fix anything because behavior is what fixes it. And they're like, well, that's not. That's not.
That's
Joel,
right.
can I ask
I
you?
compare it to when we have to hide our vegetables in kids' food, and like, so we have to go, oh my gosh, mashed potatoes, right? But inside is like the broccoli and the peas and the whatnot. So my job as a producer is go, oh my gosh, the mashed potatoes, and then eventually, go, oh, there's actually good in this type of thing. When the Biggest Loser first started, people thought it was a joke. They're like, oh wow, obese people being made fun of, and then they start to watch the show, they start to watch lives being changed, and then they realize it's not even about weight loss. It's about that metaphor of attaining something that you never ever thought that you could have ever, because you thought it was impossible, and it's about transformation. So find a way to make it entertaining, find a way to put mashed potatoes on it, and then stuff it with broccoli and peas.
Right. And I think that that's your
Yes.
gift, right? That's really your gift. For me, because I'm the person, right? Nothing, nothing brings me more joy than when somebody says, Amelia, my marriage is over. We filed a like, or the business says, listen, we're bankrupt. Like when somebody says you can't help, it's that messed up, and I'm like, give me 1 hour, give me 1 hour, and I promise you, I will turn the sucker around. Because people believe that the answer is money, time, or resources. It never is. It's always a behavior. And the way that a mirror works is the minute I mirror your truth, you can't unsee it. You can't unsee it. It's impossible. Once the brain knows, it knows. It can't unknow. And once you're mirrored with your own situation, you're now put in this amazing opportunity to choose different. But you first have to see it. But see, that's the big aha that people are not ready to look at. And the fact that you've done it over and over and over again, you're mirroring the thing that we all say, well, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about race. I don't want, and then you do it so beautifully. Like I said, this YouTube original, everybody needs to watch it, because you're taking the most non-topic we're never supposed to talk about. Like the things they go, listen, never talk about that. And you lean in, and I am glued to it. I'm glued to it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I've done that. Oh my God, I've done that. And it's brilliant, because I realized that I've made so many mistakes, with your Asian topic, with the Black women. I've made those mistakes, but yet I didn't feel bad about myself.
Joel, I have to ask this because I've been trying to cut in because I'm dying to know. And I think this will really apply to people in the room, because there's so many people who are really trying to do good, coaches and things like that here. You can't do what we do, me as a podcaster doing the show with Amelia, what you do, without living this fabulous, wonderful life of very heightened awareness. You've got to be really aware. I've got to be aware who's standing in the line next to me at Walgreens, because they could be our next guest. How have you changed? Obviously, you've taken care of your health. Thank you. Obviously, you make me feel bad by all your workouts. Y'all need to follow him on social media. Little stud muffins here doing all this. I think I saw him bench press a tractor. I swear to God, I think it's on bench press a tractor.
The tractor
this
tire.
is LA. Where'd the tractor come from?
So I follow his Instagram just if I want to wonder if I still like men. I follow, like, ooh, I really like them.
I sit there and I eat Pringles. I eat my Pringles and I watch Joel, work out. I'm like, how do you use the ongoing excitement of the awareness to benefit your life when you go home and it's not part of work? How does all of this help you live your life? I think that's going to apply to a lot of people in this room.
Yeah, I think that for me, well, first of all, I have to really unplug my producer mindset when I come home, because the producer mindset loves anxiety, because it's literally like, what are the millions of problems that I have to solve today? So I allow myself to have that mindset when I'm on set, because I go, what are the millions of problems that I have to solve today? And then when I come home, I go, all right, I don't have that mindset anymore. I'm going to be really, 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 present and do nothing. But no matter where I am, the essence, really, which is not me as an executive producer, it's not me as somebody in the gym, it's not me as the founder of a mental wellness program. The essence that I like to think is that I'm someone that wants to do good for myself as well as other people. So when I come home, I still take that essence with me. When I go to the gym, I take that essence with me. When I go to work, I take that essence with me. It just comes in different types of energies, right? But there is really that core of that essence, which is just doing good, replacing judgment with compassion, And then now, how do I actually fuel that in whatever environment it is that I'm doing, whether I am holding a camera or a tractor tire?
No. I swear to you, it was the entire tractor. It was not just the tire. Amelia, you saw it. He lifted the entire tractor.
Okay, that is a rumor I am good with. I 100% approve that rumor. I lifted a tractor.
But the thing that is so inspiring, and again, this is my my fangirl. You're so smart. You're so influential, right? You are the full package, mentally, physically, right, intentionally, and yet you are so approachable. You are so kind. That is so rare. It is so rare how helpful you are. I mean, really being a man of service, a man of true kindness, and it's beyond a blessing, but it also sets the example that you can do that too, right? Because there's so many people who climb to the top of their fame, top of their skill, and become total assholes, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that you haven't.
Yeah. And I remember being, an assistant on set trying to approach these executives, and they didn't give me the time of day. And the common denominator that I saw was that a lot of these people are really insecure. They're cocky because they're insecure. They're narcissistic because they're insecure. And then I go, oh, that's a them thing. I don't want to be that. When we work with people in life, when we have relationships with people in life, they're either a what to do textbook or what not to do textbook. And the assholes that I've met, I go, all right, when I move up in my career or whatever, I'm not going to be like that. I love talking to literally anybody. I mean, anyone that knows me knows that like I love doing inner child work. So I'm a giant kid with a really immature sense of humor, and I love talking to anybody. And when people are being cocky or they go like, oh, don't talk to me or whatever, I have nothing to learn from you. Those are the people with a very fixed mindset. Those are the people that have limited their potential in life because they're stuck in the look, the persona, right? So no, I love that you said that. And again, it's redefining who we are as people as we move up in our careers because literally the relationships that we have in life, that's everything.
And I think that's where the love that I have for you is my inner child is so curious about everything, right? And I feel your little boy child who is just as curious. And so my inner child wants to come out and play with you because I love the way you see the world because I can't see it until you show it to me. Then I'm like, oh my God, how fun. I really want to just jump into the sandbox. And I think that's where that next level really comes from. Randy and I talk about this all the time. I can be the best Amelia I can be, and it doesn't take anything away from Randy. And when Randy's being Randy, I am his biggest fan. I'm like,
yeah.
oh my God. And I think that when you get to celebrating who people are without any of the resistance energy to go, well, what about me? Or what about like that, all of that nonsense just holds you down in shame, right? To be able to truly live in what we call your higher frequency is all of that and the connection to the curiosity of the inner child. Because if you're connected to the curiosity, not only are you excited about your own life, you're excited about everybody else's life.
That's all I was jumping in on, Amelia. Have you noticed how many people we have on here to talk about this? It comes up all the time. Because if you lose your inner child, you lost your creativity. You lost your imagination. You've lost part of you.
You lost your compass. See, that's
your
inner compass is the inner child. Your adult self, right, is the disciplinarian. I should do this and I should do that, right? Your inner child is the compass to your higher self. The only way to get your higher being is to listen to the voice of the inner child. Now, when the inner child is hurt and damaged, right, then we need to repair it and release it so you can hear that compass, right? A lot of times our compasses are like spinning around and around and around and around because it's lost its direction because of the damage. But all truth is through the child. All truth is through the child. And we forget that because the adult is so judgmental. But if you look at a group of children, they're not lost. The children are not lost. The adults around them are lost. The adults who go, you can be a doctor, lawyer, and MBA. But if you look at children in their authentic state, they're not lost at all. And they're joyous and they're happy. And they're not comparing. We learn all that nonsense. The adult self is the one who learns that. And so between the higher and the child, that is the life. Your life is to reconnect. That's why it works in a circle. And that's behavior. But without these types of shows to demonstrate that it's okay. I mean, the biggest thing about this show is you realize, oh my goodness, I do that. And to be able to lean into it, to be admittedly to say, I have been wrong. I have used some of those terms. I have thought some of those things. Remember, what you think and feel affects everybody. And now that I know, I can now choose differently. I will never use some of the words and belief systems about Asians ever again, because I now know the problem was with me. I was the problem because I just didn't know. There was no ill intent, right? But I created a story that wasn't true.
Oh, let me tell you, I grew up. I have to admit this.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'll tell you, I heard, on the show last night. I grew up, in the 70s, and I grew up with "do 'em down" as that was an okay thing to say. And here I am. I would say it at 8. I had no idea. My mother said it probably 15 years ago to me. I explained to her what it meant. She didn't know. She didn't know. She was just something that was passed on to her, and she used it, but she didn't even know what the meaning was. And that was, I have to say, a lot of us have to be. I'm ashamed of some of the things that I was taught and the things I said before we managed on our own to learn they were wrong. I did.
Mortified. I watched that all the episodes. Every episode that I watched, I am mortified that I have a thought that is so far in the opposite direction of who I am.
And we've been talking about inner child and just like that childhood innocence and the creative, and you're absolutely right, where we're taught these things, right? But that's where we go, oh, we can be the cycle breakers now. So when we hear terms that we grew up with, it doesn't mean that we have to repeat those terms to our children, right? And whether it's about race or even gender, things like boys don't cry. What is that really teaching a kid? That it's not okay to be emotional, or it's not okay to, or don't hit like a girl. That's saying that women are weak or whatever, right? So it's all these things that go, all right, let me be very specific and poignant, not just with the message that I use with myself, but also the message that I use for kids, where I know that this is going to be a part of their belief system for years and years and years, And like you said, the mind doesn't really just delete things. All we can really do is replace that habit or behavior with a new one.
Let's take another question from the audience and or those on stage. If you'd like to chime in, please jump in with a question.
Where do we find the show, by the way? Just wanted to know, the YouTube show.
Yeah, just go to YouTube and type Recipe for Change, and then you're going to see 3 episodes on there, and then you can basically choose which one. The Stop Asian Hate, that one was nominated for an Emmy. That was the first one, and then the second one is Ending Anti-Semitism. And the third one, with Mary J. Blige, is about amplifying Black women. So you'll see 3 episodes if you YouTube it.
Amazing.
Stephen, do you want to jump in? I see that you have a question in the back.
Yeah, I do. I have a question on the inner child stuff. So who are people that you use as examples that it's like they support inner child and this is how it works well in leadership? When I entertain inner child conversations, it gets into kind of woo-woo-ish stuff. Which business leaders, we're talking about achieving wealth. Which business leaders approach this topic of inner child with the most decorum and effectiveness, and achieve wealth doing it? They're just they're big time inner child supporters, but they find a way to make it work publicly by saying, "Yeah, I'm into the inner child," and it works effectively in business. I'd just love to hear examples of it.
Tara just sent a big message with it, said the word Amelia in all caps.
Well, Randy, I think it's Kevin, right? Who we know together, Kevin, who's been
Oh,
an
Kevin
icon,
Gatt. Kevin
right?
Gatt.
So Kevin has been, I mean, I think he's famous in entertainment,
Kevin
right?
Gatt has worked on 7,000 films as the #1 audience research person in Hollywood. He is on someone's list of the 100 most powerful people in Hollywood. And I don't believe I've had so many conversations with him. I had to call him, we talked about this. If his inner child were gone,
But
I don't think he could do what he could do.
Yeah, you want to talk about public and a visionary, but I mean a bold leader. He is very much about his inner child. He is very much into having the conversation. He is one of the most vulnerable, candid leaders about what he's working on and why. And so I think if you want to talk about somebody who's in this lane, but again, you remember about Kevin is that Kevin impacts everything you see in entertainment. Everything.
Well, I'll give you an example. I think I can say this. He's working on Disenchanted, the follow-up to Enchanted.
But
you
he
can't
works
work
on
on the story of Disenchanted and not have a really great grasp on your inner child.
And again, I'm one of his biggest fans. Spending time with him, you will expand your thinking. He has that next level, very much like you, Joe. Like he'll ask the question. I mean, he will go deep and he will go very high. He will go very out on things. And so I think that's the first example that I would say about somebody who's been very open about the inner child work. The antiquated leaders, the leaders that have been around for the last 25, 30 years, they're now losing something of value in their life. You can see the huge successes in business, and now their marriages are over. Their kids don't talk to them. So if you scale in that one thing, Joel, like you were saying, if I define myself in that one thing, what they're waking up is they're losing all the other things around that. Now, the only way to repair that is through the inner child. And unfortunately, a lot of the leaders from yesterday don't believe in that work. That's why they call it woo-woo. But if you look at the future leaders, if you look at the influencers that are coming up through social media and building those businesses, if you take a look at like even Gary Vee is very vocal about his inner child, right? Where it was and where it is now, right? So we have more of the influencers that will actually speak in that. People who are doing big changes in verticals, but the middle markets, your middle managers, your middle companies are still believing this is the way we always do it. And that is why with the gig economy and, the rise of the remote worker, the great resignation that we're in right now, that's why they're suffering, because they don't understand people, right? They don't understand people. And why I came out with my book right now in the course, because if you do not understand people from a human behavior level, you'll never find happiness. You'll never find wealth, because today's marketplace with the gig worker won't allow it. You'll hit your head against the wall until you start looking at your own reflection. And I feel so firmly about it that this is the rise of the human capital.
And I have to do the we are out of time. I think Joel will come back.
I'll come back.
Amilya.com to find out more information about Amilya's book. We talked about YouTube originals for Joel's work with the show. Also want to do Rosie Mercado, who is a brilliant life coach. Rosie Mercado will be with us next week, so check her out. And Joel, Amilya, parting words before we turn this over.
Well,
Yeah,
Joel,
I was just gonna say I love you all. I mean, the intro to the conversation, holy moly. We got to get together in one spot and do like our own recipe for change. I had a dinner with Amilya. I had the pleasure of that.
I'm coming back to LA. I'm going to be in LA the week after next. So I'll be there.
God.
But
I'm there at Thanksgiving.
We have
There
to
we
do
go.
our own dinner party. I mean, we'll grab Sally. I mean, we have to do our own dinner party.
We'll write scrolls, all of it.
Yeah.
But no, my message is just, watch the show, check out my mental wellness program, and please really ask yourself what is something that you can do to ignite change in this world. Because I promise you, no matter what you do for a living, where you are in this world, all of us are completely capable of change. We just have to see that it is 100% possible.
Amen to that. And
Thank you,
again,
sir.
we are your biggest fans. The answer is always yes. Anything you ever need, the answer is yes. And
I will
think
come
we're
wash
gonna
your
turn it
car
over to
tomorrow
the
afternoon.
social media show, right? Is that I don't see Nate. I don't see who's taking over from the social media show. Do we know? Am I here all by myself?
I think those guys are all in Colorado right now at the EYA conference.
Oh, so
What?
maybe are we shutting down the room?
Yeah, they're
I
all
think
at
we just keep
EYA.
going with Joel.
Are we
I'm sure he has
dropping the mic?
nothing else
Almost
to
kind of
do.
dropping the mic?
I actually don't know. I don't see anybody from the social media show at all.
Not
There's
one
a
one.
BW.
Say it again.
There is a BWC Got Talent room. I don't know if it's going to be in this one or if it's its own. I'm going to just check for a second.
Okay, perfect. 'Cause we'll send people wherever we need to send them. Normally it goes right into the social media show, but I think yes, I think everybody is at the event. I think everybody's at the event. But I will ping you, Joel, because I am actually going to be in Los Angeles. I'm heading out on the book tour, so I'm down in San Diego and then driving
Me
to
too.
Los Angeles. So I will come find you. But I'm not kidding. I think we can, between Randy and I, we can come up with a really good roster of a dinner party, for sure, for sure.
I'm in for that.
100%.
Well, in the meantime, I'm going to end the live stream on social media, on Facebook and YouTube and everything else, so we can continue on here for a few minutes. All right, for those of you listening and watching on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, thank you for joining us. Join us again next week as we have another amazing guest. So thank you again for watching, and we're going to stay live on Clubhouse.